When protesters speak, Zelensky listens, in the Ukrainian tradition. In the heart of Kiev, a wave of angry voices rose as thousands held cardboard signs to demand the return of Ukraine's newly fired defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov. The streets echoed with a clear message: the people vitally like a drum, a rhythm that has long shaped Ukraine's struggle for democracy. And President Volodymyr Zelensky, an actor-turned-statesman, heard the beat. He stepped out of the corridors of power, launching a series of back-to-back video calls with corps commanders, signaling that the leadership was keen to address the crowd's concerns. As the protests continued, the demands shifted, from calling for Fedorov's reinstatement to pressuring General Alexander Syrsky, the war call's chief strategist. The former conflict strategist and the general had clashed over how far Ukraine should employ robotic warfare. In the face of a pivot, Zelensky offered Fedorov a new place on the National Security Council, a move not yet accepted by the minister. The president's willingness to entertain alternative offers from the fired minister was seen as another way of showing that his cabinet could be rebuilt in the face of mass pressure. According to Chief of Staff Kirill Budanov, society's voice has been hardamic. These protests in Kiev's central square are part of a long-standing tradition of civic action that has defined Ukrainian governance. That pattern dates back to 1991, when crowds on the streets forced the nation's first sovereign declaration of independence. The 2004 Orange Revolution turned a presidential election back into a vote after massive protests forced a re-vote. In 2014, street demonstrations wiped out a pro-Russian leader, cementing the idea that the people holds the final say. For Zelensky, this democratic mandate was more than a rhetoric, it was a clear call to stay responsive to the public pulse during a war against an unrelenting foe. History had taught him that ignoring the people could snowball into a crisis of legitimacy almost as .connect. The president's candidate knowledge through personality and populist instincts is no coincidence. He launches selfie videos, uses a precise sense of timing, and keeps his image relatable. Zelensky's approach is, in some ways, almost a performance. When the crowds rally and the nation's sense of themselves cascades into the peep, he responds with empathy, not indifference. For instance, in a former failed peace process, he pulled back from the negotiating table after Macedonian citizens had accused him of betraying national interests. More recently, when public outcry aimed at weakening anti-corruption oversight, he reversed course. The willingness to adapt, to pivot when the protests demanded a different approach, is characteristic of a leader navigating a nation in crisis. Today he stands at the center of an evolving crisis as the war continues, and the world watches as he attempts to weave together a precarious blend of military necessity and public authenticity. As the crowd's chants call out for leaders like Fedorov and Syrsky, the president's profile continues to command the attention of the 100-plus countries that would not stand idle. He remains a pivotal character on the world stage, and he continues navigating these complicated signals, establishing a rapport with the people through small concessions, with larger wins being personal stability. As the fifth day of the demonstrations wrapped up, Zelensky found himself still in the sitting of his presidency. There are likely many who see him as the same person she should step back from facing a conflict. But he remains an ace. He still holds a place across the profound, strong sense of how many might go between his office and those in the trenches of everyday life. In this story, which shapes how everyone looks forward to his next move, Ukrainian history has taught that never should the people be treated as an afterthought. If we want to see what comes next, we must watch how he keeps listening. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more updates.